Awesome. All right. Let's dive right in. I am so thrilled to have Jennifer Staats here on the Course Creators Academy podcast. Welcome, Jennifer. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited for our chat today. I've been listening to all of your podcasts and I just love like all the chats you have with everybody.
Thanks. It's so fun. I mean, people are like, why do you podcast? What is it like? How much money does it make you? And I was like, probably none. It's just really, really fun. And I get to
You get
meet
to meet so
really
many
cool
awesome
people.
people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really excited for our chat. We just briefly, for like, I don't know, 3 minutes, we just had a quick little catch up. And even then, I was like, I can't wait to share you with this audience. So, yay. Amazing. Well, I would love for you to just give us a brief introduction of who you are. What is your business? How did you find yourself in this space? And yeah, please.
It's such a funny story because I think I kind of fell into it, but I think a lot of us entrepreneurs kind of fall into it. I started off as a realtor when I was 20. I got my license. I decided to drop out of college, get my real estate license. That's what I was going to do. And I had the opportunity to start running an office. So I started while I was selling, also running the operations of a real estate brokerage. I did that for a long time, really liked it, figured out I was really good at it for some funny reason, like with no degree or anything like that. And my husband said, I want to move. Like, I don't want to raise our children here. We had just had our first child and we were doing the whole rat race thing where we were like salaried employees and we'd drive back and forth and we'd commuting, and he was commuting like 2 hours each way. And he's like, I want to move. And, I was like, I'm a California realtor. I've been running a brokerage here. Like, what am I going to do? And so we started kind of talking about that. And he had the opportunity to move us there. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to start a business because I don't want to work for someone when I move. And I'm going to work on selling our house while you move there. And I started the business while I had like a 6-month-old baby while I was still working. And it just took off. And my business is running real estate brokerages virtually. So I really wanted to still be able to manage people's business and like really work on scaling it. And I do it all virtually. And so I moved to Colorado and I already had enough clients to start hiring. And it's just grown from there. And I think we run 20 brokerages and teams now. Currently, we have a staff of 12. And we run brokerages all across the nation now. And it's so fun.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that funny how you just sort of like follow an inkling and things just kind of, they fall into place? Not that there's not challenge, but it's sort of like signs that you're on the right path, right?
Yeah, it was a lot of work. I mean, I was doing stuff that obviously I was still working full time. So it was like nighttime. I would take my hour lunch and I'd work before. I'd get there early and I'd do stuff. Baby would go down, I'd do stuff. And I had some amazing clients that were super flexible with me because they understood I was starting, but they believed in what I was doing. And a bunch of those clients are still with me actually, which is pretty funny. Like they've just stuck with me and they're like, no, I believe in you. I'm your biggest fan. And they're still with me. And it's fun because now all of our employees are virtual. So they all get to do the same kind of thing with me. Like they have families or they want to work out or they want to do whatever they want to do or they want to travel. And we all get to do it from home.
That's beautiful. And I think that they have it sounds like your people stick with you because you provide a great service and you are a great role model and you walk your talk. And I can't wait to dive into, so what is it that you do currently? And it sounds like you may have a couple of things on the horizon in terms of services for your business and your clients.
Yeah. So right now our focus is operations and marketing, and we're very niche down. Like we are very niched in the fact that like our client is real estate clients only currently. But over the past year, kind of my passion project, I haven't been charging for it or doing anything like that, but I've really just been loving helping other business owners. I've always turned down like helping other people. But then as I'm starting to talk to other business owners, I'm able to like help them work through very quickly some of their issues or problems they're having. And I've had multiple other friends or clients or women just be like, why are you not coaching? Like, why are you not helping other people do this like on a larger scale? And so I think that's something that we're probably going to be releasing in the next few months. We're going to be putting out some master classes, and probably a little bit of coaching around that. And it's really just a passion project of mine. I think it's just super fun because for me, like I set some pretty heavy boundaries. I work less than 30 hours a week. I don't work on Thursdays. I don't work on weekends. I set business hours, mainly because my clients are realtors. So they're always working. And so I had to set those boundaries very, very early on with them. And now I have people asking me, like, how do you do that? And I'm like, you just set the boundaries and you work within it and no one questions it. And it's like the craziest thing. And now I have clients asking, like, can we help set up boundaries for me? There's other business owners that are like, hey, let's talk about what that looks like. And I realize it's something that like everybody needs right now.
Yeah, let's dive into that because it's really heartbreaking to see entrepreneurs starting businesses because they're so passionate about what they do. And to your point, like a lot of people's clients also work with them because they believe in their skills and their abilities. And it becomes a double-edged sword where those clients who you want to serve so deeply, there's that like unwillingness to be the person that lets them down. And so we work ourselves into a point of burnout where we're letting everybody down, including ourselves. And it's, yeah, let's talk about that because I would really love for people to hear, like, you don't need it, but here's your permission to close your laptop.
Yep.
Right? Like, you don't have to check your phone first thing in the morning. You don't have to respond to that email right away. So, what
Yeah.
are maybe like 3 entry level boundary setting tips that you would have for a business owner?
Yeah. I mean, I think from like the very first thing, it just starts with setting expectations.
Mm-hmm.
Like from that first, like from my first client consult, I mean, now I have a team to back me up. So it's less about that. But for a while, it was like, hey, my name's Jennifer Staats. I own a company called Staats Solutions. This is what we can do for you. Just so you know ahead of time, so it's not a surprise, I take Thursdays off to be a mom and be with my kids. I set that right from day one. And so there's no question when they call me on Thursday why I don't answer. Or sometimes I'll even tell my clients, like, hey, I don't work Thursdays. I'm with my kids. It's my day to like have the yoga pants, the mom bun, the pick the kids up from school, to take them to baby gym class, all the things. So I'll tell a client, like, hey, if you call me on a Thursday, I'm going to think it's an emergency and I will answer the phone, but I will have kids in the back of my car. And I don't normally do stuff like that. And so the calls stop. Like, and I even have clients like call and they'll be like, oh my God, it's Thursday. I'm so sorry. Like, I know it's your day off. And it's so funny because it just starts with that first setting those expectations and nobody has a problem with it. They respect it so much. So I would say like that one. And then like my husband's been really helpful and in the fact that he helps me kind of set those boundaries and he reminds me because I'm a total workaholic. So these setting the boundaries and the only working 30 hours, like that doesn't come naturally to me at all. Like I could work 100 hours a week if someone allowed me to. But he reminded me like, Jennifer, when you come home at the end of the day, you are on our time now. Like we need your full attention. And so he makes these funny comments to me of just like, Jennifer, you're on my time. Because like I go
He's
down
got a
the rabbit
point.
hole of like looking at my phone or something. He's like, what are you doing? Like, you're on my time now. Is this actually an emergency or are you just like in your business right now? And I'm like, it's not an emergency. It doesn't need to be done now. It can be done in the morning. So I think it's like setting expectations with clients, but also having your family or your friends also helping you set expectations on the other side of your business. And then I think like probably the last one is just like really like organizing or time blocking your day, and not time blocking your day in the fact that, like, we all do, where we put a bunch of things on our calendar that we don't actually ever do, or we put like the whole day, we just fill up to be completely colored. There's no realistic way of you actually doing all those things. It's like organizing your day so it's creating space for doing more. So being able to let yourself think, go for a walk, like really allow yourself to get all of those things done and set, I'm going to say expectations again, but set realistic expectations of like what work you can accomplish that day. So that's been really helpful for me, because I used to just like load so many things. There'd be like 30 meetings on my calendar. And by the end of the day, I was burnt. I didn't get anything done. I was completely burnt out. I would almost have to go back to my laptop after dinner because there was like things that actually had to get done. So, and I think that's a big thing too. I mean, I can see all my clients' calendars and I can see the time blocking they put on there. And I know they didn't prospect for 3 hours. Like, they didn't go work out this morning at 5 a.m. Like, don't put it on your calendar if you're not actually going to do it. Put stuff, because it makes you feel bad about yourself too.
Totally. I'm so glad you're talking about this, because that sort of like scheduling of your entire day has been a tool and a strategy that so many productivity people have shared guidance on. I think there's a certain personality type that it could work for, but for the most part, people do it because they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And what I see happening, and this is myself too, maybe I'll time block 2 hours to work on a project, and I either don't start right away, or I get distracted, or it takes longer than the 2 hours. And so everything after that gets bumped. Then you've got a call, and then everything, right? And I love that you talked about space. And I'd like to dig into that just a little bit more and figure out, like, what does that look like, and how do you stay flexible with yourself with the things that kind of come and go during the day? And what are your strategies on how to sort of create a container for the fires and the emergencies so that they're not always pulling you out of your flow?
Yeah. I mean, that's hard. And I think it depends on like what you quantify as an emergency. Because I think with all of us, we're so passionate about our business that everything almost feels like an emergency. Like,
Great
I have
call.
to answer that email. I have to answer that phone call. I have to do that thing. And we always approach at Staats Solutions, we approach the fact of like, nothing should be an emergency if we can get ahead of it, right? So if something does come up for a client or something like that, where we kind of do deem it an emergency, I actually take a step back and go, why did that happen? Like, why did that specific thing happen, and how can we get ahead of it in the future so there isn't a bottleneck at the end of the week, or the first of the month we have way too many client intakes or something like that. Like, I like to look at it like that, because to me that it's usually something that we can prevent. On the other side of it, I actually think that creating a little bit of space does allow for some of those emergencies, right? Where there's something that comes up that takes longer, but now you had given yourself an extra hour or two throughout the day to work on a training or create content or something. And now you kind of have a little bit of flexibility where you're not like, well, I have meetings. Like, I can't cancel the meetings with people I've booked. There's nothing I can do with that. And so now all of a sudden it's like, I've talked to a bunch of business owners that are like, yeah, I put the kids to bed and then I sit there and I work on emails while my husband watches TV for like 3 hours. And then I wake back up at 5 a.m. And I'm like, that's not a sustainable business model. Like, you're not spending any time with your husband, and you're going to totally get burnt out. I mean, I know we all do it. We 100% all do it. I mean, heck, I worked last night until like 11, but that's not like a normal thing for me. And I think a lot of it's, yeah, just creating a little bit of space in your day, but then also being able to figure out is this really an emergency? Whatever we are thinking in our mind, that email, that phone call, could it wait till tomorrow? Could there just be a proper expectation I set with that person that called that said, hey, I'll just give you a call first thing in the morning? I think are all things you just have to think through. Otherwise, it's so easy to get overwhelmed.
Absolutely. I love that distinction. And you're so right. Like something can feel very emergent to us because we just want to serve our clients. We want to make sure that they're
Yep.
happy. And sometimes other people's priorities can feel like they're more important than our own. So it's definitely
Yeah,
a good thing to reflect on.
it can.
Yeah,
I know
that's
we've all
awesome.
been on like vacation or something. We see that call come in. We're like, we have to take this. Do you really? Because I can almost promise you if you take it tomorrow, it's probably fine. Like, you know?
Totally. I always tell my team, like, if there's something that comes through or, they have something on their to-do list and they can't get to it today, nothing in this world is an emergency. Like very few things, right? Like maybe the client's launching in the hour and something needs to be done. Most of the time that's not true. And I'm always like, do it tomorrow. Just communicate. Like, hey, I'm
Yeah,
not going to get this today. And yet it's hard for me to take that advice and like put it to practice myself. So this was a great reminder. Thank you.
it is. It's just hard. I mean, we all look at like, I'm a big thing of like all the little red dots on my phone, like drive me insane. I can't leave emails unread, all the stuff. So it's really hard for me to like really practice it. But it's almost necessary because otherwise I go home, I'm working, then my kids complain or say, Mommy, why are you always on your phone? Then I feel guilty. Then I go to work and I feel guilty. It's like you have to create that space for yourself. Whatever fills your bucket, you almost have to be able to go and really serve your clients in whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. And I always say too, like as someone else's client, I want to know that that service provider is happy and feels good and is living a full life. Like I don't want to be the source of their stress or the reason
Yeah,
they don't sleep. And so I think remembering that your clients are humans too, and they want the best for you because they know that if you're happy, you are providing a better service for them. So lots of good
100%.
reminders. Yeah. I love it. And on this note, I would love to dive into a conversation around, when we are feeling overwhelmed and we're realizing that maybe we're overwhelmed either because, we may have some adjustments to make in our schedule or our workload, or perhaps our business has grown so much that we're ready to bring on support. And
Mm-hmm.
hiring has been, it's a big conversation and it always will be for entrepreneurs. And I'd love any thoughts or guidance that you might have around great, best practices for hiring, as well as some things that we might fall into that we should probably look to avoid.
I've
Big,
become the
big
like
subject, big question.
I've been like the master at this because I think I jumped into it really quickly and just learned all the wrong things to do. And from that, we've built a team of amazing people that, we really have a team that sticks around fairly long term. Some of my staff's been with me for 4 or 5 years now. They've moved to different countries during their employment with me, and they've grown the business with me. And
Mm,
I mean, I think like for me, when I needed help because I took on a bunch of clients and I was like in the middle of moving and I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to start hiring and finding people to help me. And at first it was in a support role where I really just needed support with some of the work I was doing. They didn't really have any direct contact with my clients. Um, I just had to start figuring out like what I needed. What could I delegate? And what I work with a lot of our clients now is I actually do this whole exercise with them, which is kind of funny and it sounds so old school, but I'm like, take a yellow pad, put it on your desk right here. And every time you're working on something that you think could be delegated, taught, someone could maybe do it better than you, write it down. Just write it all down.
mm,
And then after about like a week or two, you're going to look at that list and you're going to kind of see, is there a big chunk that you think you can delegate out to one person? That's very important because I think most people make the mistake of just being like, oh, I'm just going to hire one person and they're going to do it all. No, they're probably not. They might, but they're probably not. Like they're one person's probably not going to make your reels, do your accounting, and bathe your dog. Like it's not realistic. It needs to be like one person. Or you need to hire like a contractor for all the little things. But I like to just start with like that one thing. So with our real estate brokerages, a lot of time it's one position, which is a transaction coordinator. So we're like, let's get that a big chunk of your stuff off your plate first, and then we can work on all the little things. So figure out what you're hiring for first would definitely be the first thing. And then the second thing, and people don't think about this, is that you need to make sure that you have the space and the time to work with your new hire. If it's not like a CPA or something that already knows what they're doing exactly, if they're working in your business, you need to make sure you have the time to spend with this person. Not only to train them, because obviously that's super important, but get to know them. Like, especially in a virtual business, because I see this more often than not where people hire a VA and stuff like that. And they're like, here, like, do all this. And they wonder why they have high turnover. Because they never once asked about their family. How are you today? Are you feeling fulfilled by the work you're working on? And then they come to me and they're like, Jennifer, I can't keep a VA longer than 30 days. And they're just not doing their job and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, when's the last time you checked in with them or like treated like them like they're part of your team? And they're like, oh, what an interesting thought. And I'm like, wouldn't you, like, if the person was sitting next to you, wouldn't you have maybe taken them to lunch or like bought them a coffee or asked them a question? Yeah, I would have. Like it's the same thing. It's the same idea. So, I mean, I'm a virtual company. We provide virtual services for all of our clients. So that's big for us. Like we do a lot of video calls and check-ins. We do like gifts for our clients. I do gifts for my employees to make sure like we're all really engaged. They're feeling like they're getting to know the client. They're not just sitting at home full time, not communicating with anyone. So space is a big one. And make sure you have systems they can actually plug into and actually work in. So, like a lot of our clients in the beginning, they're like, well, I have a file folder back here with all of my transaction documents. And I'm like, well, that doesn't actually help me at all. I'm never going to go to your office. So I need a system that like is easy for us to work together to build your business. So you have to make sure that there's ways of communicating, training and systems. And you can do that really easily without making it this big. People think of like SOPs and training as like this huge, crazy project. And it's like, no, every time you train your VA, maybe record it, put it somewhere. It doesn't need to be this big, fancy, branded thing. It can be, but you just take it piece by piece. So, I mean, those are a couple things that I see people get hung up on is like choosing the right person, making sure you can train them, and then actually training them.
That's brilliant. I feel like just that alone is going to save people a ton of time, if not only, having a more efficient team and hiring better people, but firing is the worst thing in the whole wide world. So if we can avoid doing that,
it's 100% the worst. Luckily I haven't had to deal with that very often. But man, you want to really pick the right person and have them stick around long term so you don't have that turnover, because it's so hard in any business owner. I mean, you get invested in this person, they leave, but you want to make sure you're doing everything you can, and then do everything you can so it's repeatable. So if you're making training for this person, I like to always make sure that's stored somewhere. There's replicatable systems somewhere. So if this person, I don't like to say leaves, but if we promote them throughout the company and we have to move someone in underneath them, we can very easily.
That's brilliant. I love that so much. And it's so true. I think sometimes in the heat of the moment, like especially in the energy of overwhelm, and that reminds me, I have a follow-up question around that sort of mindset. But like it can be very tempting to hire very quickly to just get stuff off your plate and like,
Yep.
okay, here's a VA. they've been a VA for a while, so they can look at my website, understand my business, love it as much as I do, and then know what to do. It's like, it sounds crazy, but I've been there, and I know other people have too. So, getting to know people, I think just hearing that from you and knowing that is like, it's important to remember that our virtual team members are people, and teams are like family, especially for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And when we want people to be bought into what it is that we do and what we're all about, that connection is so key. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, I think it gives them a sense of fulfillment. It wants them to really like buy into the culture. But then I also feel like their work is better too. Like when I have an
Totally.
employee that really understands what we are trying to do, my marketing is better, my systems are better, the meetings with my clients are better because like the my team member gets it. Like they get everything we're about. And I'll be on a meeting and I'm like, yes, that was awesome. Like that's exactly how I would have said it in better. But that they wouldn't get that if they didn't spend time with you and really understand your message. So
Absolutely.
important.
What would you say is sort of the ideal cadence for connection calls or check-in calls or, standing meetings just to make sure that those relationships are strengthened?
I think it's different for every single person. I think it really truly is because I've had some employees that was very important to them. Like they needed face-to-face time and I can feel that, I can see that, I can see their messages in Slack and I just know they're off and I know they just need a phone call. Where I have other employees that they just really want to just do their work. They find meetings to kind of be like waste of time. I'll ping them. I've realized I have a couple employees that really find gifts to be really funny. Like that's how they communicate for some reason. Like that's how they do it. So I actually like put like a plug-in into our Slack account so they could all communicate with gifts. So I probably don't have like, let's say a regular other than like every 90 days we'll do like an actual check-in, like official 1 hour, you and me, we're here. But we do like group huddles, we do team meetings. So there's kind of like we have different methods of checking in with each other, whether video or chat or even like internally. We just did, I thought it was going to fall flat, but everyone loved it. We did like an hour-long trivia thing. The teams thought it was like the best check-in ever, and they all got to know each other because they figured out like who got the answers for what right and like who is all these things. So I would say like use your intuition. Like obviously don't overdo it because you're going to set yourself up for failure, but I would say like just put on your calendar that you're going to check in once a week or you're going to check in once a month or that. So there's a normal cadence to it. But then if you feel like something's off, check in or, hey, you just had a baby. How are you? I heard this, like normal stuff just to ping them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love your approach is so approachable. It's, yeah, like I think it's advice that everybody can sort of take in bite-sized pieces and not feel overwhelmed. And I appreciate
Yeah.
it so much.
I don't do anything crazy HR wise or whatever. I'm not like, you have to do this many touch points to every single person. It's just like, okay, make sure that everyone's still building culture internally. And I tell my team leads the same thing. Like they'll do little quick 15-minute huddles with their team just to make sure everyone's engaged. And we do that with my clients too. Like, hey, you have staff also. Are you checking in with your TC? How are your agents doing? We do kind of the same thing, like goal setting, check-ins, huddles, team meetings. It's kind of like the same flow with each, but not like exact.
I love that. And I think playing is so key also in creating those experiences together and those shared, not necessarily. So I recently did a team training and someone called it trauma bonding. I was like, is this traumatic for you? It was like, this is a nonprofit organization that I volunteer with, and we went to a one of those escape rooms, and
Yeah.
someone just
Oh, yeah,
had
yeah.
like a terrible time. Like they were like, "This is so difficult. Like I'm so frustrated." I was like, but it was funny, and like that, it became this like funny thing where like, don't ask this person to solve a code, and it's something that can create that shared experience outside of the context of work that actually helps
Mhm.
to bring people together. And I think we forget about that because we're so deep in like everything that has to happen every day for this machine to keep moving or working. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you said that.
It's so funny. Trauma bonding. I mean, we've done a couple things and it doesn't always hit the mark, right? So like trivia was big success. I thought it was gonna, I don't like trivia. So I was like, oh, it's gonna be awful. They had a lot of fun. I didn't get any of the answers right, which was super funny as the business owner because like they all kicked my butt. But I also did one recently, or probably a couple months ago, that we did a craft together. Like we made signs. I had like custom signs for everybody that they got to paint. Total dud. Total dud. But it was funny because they all got to laugh at how bad their signs were. So, I mean, it's just like the little things of showing you care. And then they get to know each other's personalities too.
Yeah. It's something in the virtual space that I think can be implemented more, and it requires us to be a little bit creative because
Mm-hmm.
you take an office out for a night of bowling and that's one thing, but virtual trivia, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing.
Right.
Oh, that is so awesome. Well, I did want to ask. So, when we are feeling super overwhelmed and we decide, I have all these things on my plate, this is how I'm strategically going to hire, and the hiring process can be a little bit lengthy, and there's that
Yeah.
whole like hire slow, fire fast kind of thing. Do you have any guidance around sort of navigating that space where like you're hiring because you just don't have time, and yet you're
Mm-hmm.
about to put a lot more time on your schedule to train, to connect with your new hire, to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that you're talking to enough candidates that you're hiring the right person? What are your thoughts and guidance around that?
That's hard because, yeah, you are coming from a space of probably either getting ready to launch something, or you are really busy, or you have some sort of life event that's making you need to like step back a little bit. You need to plan for it, one. So I like to kind of look at it like, okay, maybe I am going to batch shoot all of my content right now. So I have more space to do that over the next couple weeks because I know I'm going to be hiring, or wherever that like extra time in your business that maybe you write a lot, like maybe you blog or something like that. Is that something that you can maybe do more of to kind of batch and get that off of your list? Or maybe for the next 3 weeks you don't prospect as much. Like there needs to be something that kind of gives, in my opinion, if you're going to be going into that, because it is going to be more work. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It will. But there's tools that you can use when you're hiring to kind of take that legwork off. We use a tool called Wise Hire, and so we run all of our job ads through Wise Hire. I use it for all of our clients. I use it for Stats, and it allows me to filter through like our last job posting we posted, I think for Stats, got 6,000 applicants in a series of 4 days. I mean,
Wow.
whoa, number one, right? Like, whoa. But Wise Hire actually like allows us to ask a series of questions. They put their resume in, they can put all these things in. I can filter people out based on their answers to the questions. And then it also like filters them by like their personality test they took. That allows me to like really filter out the people that I know wouldn't be a good fit. Like if it's like I'm hiring for an operations manager for a real estate company and they have no real estate experience. Okay, I can X out like 7,000 people just by hitting that little button. I can go through that. So
Hmm.
that will save people a lot of money, like a lot of time, effort. And I've actually found with a lot of business owners, it saves them a lot of money because they've been running a lot of ads and stuff like that to try to get applicants and filter through them or use recruiters. And you can use a tool like that to save a ton of time. And then it also organizes all your applicants really nicely. So you can move them through like the funnel and like the interview process. And then be strategic about who you're interviewing. Like I have a bad habit of like wanting to interview like 20 different people. And then I want to talk to them each for an hour and like hear their entire life story. And I feel for them. And then I'm starting to care about them already. And I'm like, I need to hire all of you. It's like, no, you need to be like really strategic. So if there's like questions you want to ask, maybe do that before the interview to try to filter them out a little bit. Now a lot of times I might have one of my team members do a couple of the calls before I get to them, just to say, hey, can you do a couple quick phone calls to see if like, you can ask them like 3 different questions and see if we can't narrow down to the top 3. So there's different things you can do to try to like make it not so crazy of a process. We've done with marketers, we've done like a test before we did an actual interview, like, hey, can you send me samples? Or, hey, if I gave you this branding and these different data points, what kind of social media graphic would you put together? Shoot it back. And that filters out a lot of people because they're like, yeah, I'm a graphic designer. And I get it back and I'm like, you're not a graphic designer at all. Like no, you're not. So there's just different things you can do so you could save yourself some time.
I love that tool, and we'll link to it in the show notes. If you have like a link that you want to share, feel free. Thank you. And I think that's really, really helpful because part of the challenge with hiring is like, how do you direct a job listing on your website to a group of people that could potentially be a good fit? That alone is a really tall task, and it can be challenging, especially, right? Like if you don't have an ads budget or a network of people that you can ask to share that application, or so that resource I think is gold. Thank you.
It's super hard. It really is. I mean, it was overwhelming when I first started. Like, I'm like, how am I going to go through all of these people and find like the right one? And I don't even know how I found that, but I think someone was like, oh, you use this tool. And I'm like, oh, what? Like, that's insane. Like, it's that simple, right? And it just helps you filter everyone out. You can organize it. And then it allows you to like pause when you're not hiring so that it doesn't cost money while you're not using it.
Oh, nice. And you can sort of save that job listing for future hires.
Super cool.
That's incredible. We will link to that for sure. Amazing. Well, you are a wealth of knowledge in so many ways, in addition to the services that you provide. And I'm so grateful. I can't wait for people to hear this episode. And if there is somebody out there, they are an entrepreneur, maybe they have a small team, maybe they don't even have to be new. Like so many established business owners still have these same challenges. What is some advice that you would share with them on just helping them to keep on going and to, maybe some small shifts that they could make to make their life a little bit lighter and a little bit more enjoyable?
Yeah, I like to look at everything in like really small little stepping stones. So like, what are you working towards, and like what little things can we do to like get something off of your plate, make something more efficient, the little things. Because I think so many of us get overwhelmed because we're looking at this big, huge thing we're working towards. And it's like, wait a second, let's look at the things that you're doing today that maybe we can just systematize or automate or delegate out. And that right there, it's like we can all of a sudden we find 10 hours extra a week. And we're like, wait a second, what just happened here? Like, what did I do? So I think just taking it step by step and just looking at like what your issues are and like where are you spending most of your time. And I can almost guarantee there's something in there that we can systematize, automate, or delegate out. One of the 3 or all 3.
Brilliant. I love it. Slow down to speed up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I can only imagine that people are going to listen to this and say, oh my gosh, how can I get in touch with Jennifer? How can I, connect with you, work with you, follow you on social media? What are all of the best places for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty active on Instagram. You can follow me at jennifertherealtor.com. you should go follow me, because usually there's always goat pictures and stuff like that on my private Instagram. So and I'm always happy to like jump on a call. I love doing coffee chats with other entrepreneurs, or just I could do like a quick voice clip of like what I would do in a situation. I'm always there to help.
Brilliant. That is so awesome and generous. I really hope people take you up on that, because you are it's the way your brain works, and the way that you see this space is very refreshing. It's unique, and it's well-rounded. It's not, you're not like all about the hustle. You understand that things need to get done. People have businesses, they love their clients, and we are humans. We must take care of each other. We must take care of ourselves. And I just love that that's what you're all about. So thank you so much for sharing today.
Thanks for having me. It was so fun.
Absolutely. We will stay connected and chat soon for sure.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.